Epic A4 intro, take one, Mark.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cube.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July 2025 edition of First Thursday. Before we begin, I want to wish a belated Happy Canada Day to our Canadian supporters and investors. And I'll wish an early Happy July 4th to those in America who will be celebrating Independence Day on Friday. So hope everybody has a good time with their families. And if you're not celebrating either of those holidays, we'll go out and celebrate anyway. It's going to be fairly brief this month. As everybody knows, including ourselves, we've been waiting for exciting news to come in the form of approval of our IPO for Chatterbox in India. We continue to work hard on that process. It's been truthfully quite frustrating at times, but there are reasons for that. And the biggest reason is that the India government has gotten even more serious about the qualifications and things that need to happen for a listed company in India. Ultimately, that's good for us. I think a lot of people may or may not be aware that we qualified when we did our filing for what is known as QIB status, which is qualified investment bankers. What that means is that's institutional investors. And based on our filing, we're required to have at least 50% of the money that comes into the IPO come from institutional investors. Most MSE, medium small enterprise IPOs do not have that. So we're in sort of rarefied air in terms of qualifying for that. And that also requires a bit more scrutiny and a bit more diligence in terms of everything that happens around that when you get into the world of institutional investors. The other thing that's happened is SEBI, which is the SEC of India, and just the public markets in general in India have been much more strident than they were a year ago when really this whole process began in its infancy in terms of the process of approving an IPO and going through what's become extraordinarily rigorous to get that approval and to ultimately get listed in India. Ultimately, as frustrating as that's been for us on a lot of occasions, ultimately it's the benefit to all shareholders and everyone, because where we might have been in a world a year plus ago, 2 years ago, where 9 out of 10 registered filings were approved, it's flipped the exact opposite way, where now it's sort of like 1 out of 10 get approved. And so what that's resulted in is a slower process, a more rigorous process. Of course, this has been interrupted along the way with things like the potential war, which of course we're all thrilled didn't happen, between Pakistan and India, things like the tariffs, things like the general condition of the world. And so there have been sort of fits and starts that have also created some delays along the way. But ultimately, we are very, very close to reaching that approval, fully anticipate and expect that to happen, and hoping that before we get to the next First Thursday, and I know I've been saying this for a while so that my credibility shot a little bit, but the fact of the matter is we keep believing that we're checking all the boxes that we need to check on our side to get that approval, and fully expect it to happen, to come very soon. And the final thing that I'll say about that is that while all this has been taking place as well, the Indian market in general, the stock market, the sentiment, the things that have been happening continue to improve as well. And so we feel like we're going to be entering the market in a more positive time frame than it may have been certainly 3 or 4 months ago when the conflict between Pakistan and India was happening, really even the end of last year when there was a lot of instability and lack of knowledge about sort of what was happening with the world, et cetera. So we think that's starting to settle in. We think India is continuing to show and flex its muscles in terms of becoming a global power. And we expect all of that to benefit us when we finally do get that approval and get listed. So stay tuned for that, and we'll give more updates when that all occurs. The other piece that, again, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail now, because the thing that I've spoken about, unfortunately, for 3 months now, keeping in mind that we filed this at the end of February, is as a corporate entity, we're basically in a quiet period. And that quiet period's gone on a hell of a lot longer than we originally ever expected or anticipated. And that's because we're the largest shareholder of Chatterbox, and because we're public, we kind of have to adhere to that. It's a bit of a gray area, but we certainly don't want to run into any interference or problems by stepping over that line. So we always opt to be more conservative. So a lot of the things that you haven't seen coming out of us in terms of PR, et cetera, you'll see that change in a dramatic fashion. It's been really frustrating that some of the things that we've wanted to talk about openly to the public, et cetera, we've had to hold back on. So I'd make the statement that there's a backlog of things that we're anxious and excited about telling our investors and telling the world. You'll start to see that happen as the approval happens and the IPO goes forward. The one thing I can say is that the U.S. business is entering Q3, which started yesterday or 2 days ago now, is extraordinarily exciting at the moment. There are a number of new clients that we are onboarding for the first time for some major deals that we're doing. We've either been nominated or won many awards over the course of the first half of 2025, and we expect more of those to happen. We've created some relationships with new clients that continue to grow and expand in terms of the brands that we're working with those clients. And so a lot of the specifics around that news you'll be hearing more about as the quiet period ends, as we get deeper into Q3. And I think people are going to be extremely excited about what's happening with the U.S. business as we enter Q3 and head into the second half of the year. What all that ultimately leads to is the fact is that we are completing successfully the divestiture of our channel business units and the gaming stuff so that we can get out of those businesses and focus completely on the creator economy. As many of you may be aware, the public sentiment in the ad world has been slightly dampened in terms of what's happened for the global advertising market. There's one area that hasn't happened, and that's in the creator economy. You can Google it yourself or use your ChatGPT to look it up. The impact and the growth of the influencer and creator economy is massive right now. And you don't have to, you sort of have to be living in a cave and not have a cell phone or kids or anything else not to realize the impact of what Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, et cetera, are all driving in terms of their power of introducing brands to especially younger audiences, but to audiences of all ages. And so we are right in the middle of that. We feel like we're not sitting out in the water waiting for the swell that hasn't happened. The swell is happening right now, and we're well entrenched in terms of being able to take advantage of that through the incredible list of blue chip clients that we have both in the US and India. So it's a very, very exciting time for us, albeit frustrating that we haven't had the IPO, been able to announce that to all of us yet. But we continue to motor along on that process, and nothing great isn't worth waiting for. So we're looking forward to being able to share that positive news with all shareholders. And probably the bottom line that I would state is that we are extremely excited as a company about the second half of 2025. And we expect there to be a torrent of positive news, positive momentum, and positive movement for the company overall as we go into the second half of this year. And we're already seeing it in real time, only 2 or 3 days into Q3. So with that, I'll tantalize you with that information. As I said, can't reveal a lot more specifics about any of this. And again, I know I've been saying that for a while. We're all a little bit tired of it, but we're just going to have to keep going, keep our heads down, make sure that the businesses themselves are succeeding the way that we know they can, and good things will come for those who are patient along the way. So thank you all so much for your support. Again, happy Canada Day belatedly, and happy 4th of July. And hope everybody is starting off with a great, warm, and fun summer ahead. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.